Hey everyone. Welcome. My name's Alix Sabatelli of SweetSpotPower, and today we are diving into mindset, my absolute favorite subject, because I believe that we create our reality, and it starts with the mind. And a mindset, to me, is a way of thinking that has become habitual based on all kinds of decisions we've made about the things that we've learned about our lives. And we're going to dive deep into this subject today. And really, the core of this, the philosophy that I've always held with SweetSpotPower, the aim of this has always been to bring you into this highest level of potentiality, right? There's this dance of the health and vibrancy of your body, the alignment to a clear mind that's creative and purposeful and present, and of course this infusing in this alignment with spirit. And it's just this beautiful alignment called SweetSpotPower, and it makes life unfold beautifully and with a little bit less effort. Doesn't mean we don't have challenges, but we don't have to struggle as much. But you know, in reality, this mastery, I call it quantum mind, this dance of your beliefs that you have that determine your thoughts, that determine the actions that you take in your life, which determine the results. And, you know, like this whole cycle, actually the emotions, your emotions are a huge part of it. That determines your actions and then your results. And then this confirmation of your beliefs because of the results. Like this is like the spiral that we live in, and it goes up or it can go down. And we want it to go up. It creates a sense of relief, a sense of moving forward and possibility in your life. But the reality is, for most of us, the dance is a bit more of a down spiral. It's more of a tripping up. And, you know, I've quite honestly spent half my life peeling the layers of struggle, my personal stuff, the beliefs that didn't serve me, the thoughts, the habits, the things that weren't working for me to get to, you know, closer to this mastery. And in a way that's been a lot of the purpose that I have in what I do today is because of that. So there's no mistake in it. But what I really want to open up as a topic here, since, you know, we have to get real with kind of where our starting point is. And it's fitting to begin there with the chaos of life right now, in this kind of muck bucket that we're living in. It's kind of the perfect place to start, because you can kick off from there and reach for a better life, a better alignment, more meaning and more purpose in your life when there's so much craziness that's kind of happening right now. So I'm so excited about this guest that I have today to share with you. And what we're doing here, this man is an incredible and experienced therapist. His name is Harrison Hayes. And he's going to address these challenging states of mind that we find ourselves in because of these beliefs and habits and the reality we've created for ourselves. And there's a lot of guises that it comes in, a lot of names and labels that come in. And in light of this chaos that we are collectively living in right now and individually, I really want to have him really help unpack this a little bit. And so let me tell you a little bit about Harrison. He's been called an emotional surgeon. Okay, I feel so much gratitude for this guy. Seriously, like we've just known each other for a number of months, and talk about making me think and peel back even more layers of my own beliefs and how those things are serving me or not serving me. It's just incredible. And his willingness to gift you with his expertise today, having counseled so many people who've been at the bottom of the bucket to carve a personal path to their own peace, their own self-enlightenment, is such a treat. And so today we're going to really, he's going to just like cover a lot of the basics and his philosophy, and maybe dive into some good stuff. And we just might take this live and start doing some additional pieces where we can serve you directly. So you'll definitely want to be tuning into what's down in the description below, not only to learn how to find him, but also to see what else we might have up our sleeve. So Harrison is he's experienced as a mental health therapist, and he's specialized in the field of trauma. He has his own story around this, of course, and he uses his background, education, and direction in life to bring others to what he calls emotional equilibrium. How beautiful is that? Harrison, welcome to the call.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to turn this over to you. I would love for you to just lead us in your special way, share your story and your perspective on this chaos that we live in, the collective and personal traumas that we're experiencing, and just do your due. But I will say, can you just start with like, what is mindset to you?
Oh, thank you so much. Your words are very welcomed and appreciated. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you. And
Thanks.
thank you for what you do for people. You benefit others through putting yourself out there and getting to that point where you articulate so well and you bring other people in and take those risks, those personal risks of exposure and letting yourself be seen. It's touching, it's moving, and it's a gift that you invited me here. I've seen some of your other videos, podcasts, interviews, and you do an amazing job. So I'm grateful. I've done quite a bit of public speaking, typically to active duty military folks, and I've been invited to different places to give talks to veterans, and in that realm, because there's a lot of trauma there, but it goes deeper than just the military experiences. It goes into what I think is a deeper cause to the traumatic mindset, the chaos, the buying into the modern day issues, the confusion. And that's that a lot of people that join the military have a servant's heart. And a lot of people who have a servant's heart have been very hurt, whether that's in their adulthood, young adulthood, adolescence, childhood, infancy. And they know what it's like to be hurt. And those little hurts, big or small, they could be big hurts too, build up over someone's lifetime. And so emotional equilibrium sounds to me pretty clear. It's like there's an equalness to that we find within ourselves to what's around us. Like we're equal with the rest of existence. Like I'm equal along. I'm equal. I belong to this world, and I'm here, and I'm alive, and I think it's turning that into a good thing, you know, all of the time, because why not? Like, what's the alternative? It's really interesting because, you know, I just had this thought over here because I have the 3 abalone shells, and this is just an idea that just came to me, and it's hard for me because I dove in the water and got these 3 abalone shells during the last season that it was open to do so in California. It's closed now, but this was a few years back, and they're all tagged. And you know, something living once was inside of here, and it's always conflicting for me to take a life out of where it originally was. And you know, I think when I was young and messing with bugs and stuff, and every once in a while I'd like squish a bug like an ant, you know, when I was very small, it led to the bigger questions of like, what did I just do, you know, and what implications does it have, you know, what ripple effect will this have? And you know, these were just some of the thoughts that I was having as a little boy. So mindset really is I think all about asking questions and not settling, you know. And there's something that I have said for quite a few years, that's that I'm not willing to help others who aren't willing to help themselves. And I'm willing to go 50%, 51%, 99%, as long as they give whatever percentage they can at the time. Um, and the point of it is for them, like when I work with a client, have done a lot of group work, but also a lot of individual work with serious mental illness, quote unquote. And what I find is my goal is to one day have them be my teacher, to heal so much despite whatever they went through or because of whatever they went through, that they get to the point where they're the experts here. And they come to me thinking that, I'm the expert on and going to help them, and rightfully so. And that's an okay dynamic, but not forever. Like, it's about freedom, setting people free and curing people, not myself, but within themselves, giving them tools and pointing them in the right direction. But really, where I come in is it's just helping them navigate the actions to take, and that gets into thought. A lot of people wouldn't think of thought as an action. They would not consider what we tell ourselves to be a behavior. But if we think about verbal behavior, which is just one facet of behavior, we are behaving verbally internally. So it's an internal verbal behavior that has a real effect. So if we think of like cause and effect, if I criticize myself, which is something I've done in the past, very, very much so, and because of my own traumas that built up and up and up, and then I was using coping strategies that did work for a while, but over time were hurting me. It did lead to a lot of ingrained parts within my brain. Those grooves just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And I have done a lot of work myself, and so I'm able to help others at whatever stage to start to repair those grooves. And that's the work. When people say like the emotional work or the work, that's the work. It's uncomfortable, but once someone sees that it's safe on the other end, and someone like me who knows how they feel is able to kind of catch them and then point out that it was them that got them through that, and that they are okay, then after a few times of that, they're able to build up momentum. And that leads to that emotional equilibrium where that is freedom. And that's what I want for all people, is to be free. And the mindset is typically what we need to become free of in order to feel what those others are living out, which is that kind of like, oh gosh, like they got something I don't, and I'd like that. I would like that. But the road getting there is unique for all of us. But there are a lot of similarities. Like we are alike. We are all so much alike. And I try and look for the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah. May I comment? Well, first of all, this idea of working with other people and learning something from your clients, I think that there's always a resonance in finding that person to work with, that there is a dance between teacher, student, teacher, like it's always a back and forth dynamic thing. And I want to really emphasize when you say grooves, because I use the same terminology, a mindset is a habit, to me, a habit of thought that creates a neural pathway that's just it's automatic. It's like a set way of thinking when a situation or an emotion or something arises. And that set way of thinking was based on whatever beliefs things you've decided as you created your identity or lived your life. and they may or may not serve you. And you were just saying that when somebody wants something different, well, it's not in your normal groove, but you want it. And, you know, willpower, you can kind of try to like move it over there and do the best you can, but like eventually the water's going to go back into the groove with, if your mindset, if your beliefs don't warrant that you believe that, like you said in the beginning, thank you so much for your compliments. How hard it was for me to do live things like this and shine, quote unquote, my light, with the belief systems that I had, that it wasn't safe to do that, or, you know, all this stuff. Sometimes, you know, the willpower to just do it anyway, do it anyway, do it anyway. It's like, you feel like you're walking the plank. It's like, I'd rather die, you know, than do it. So I just wanted to kind of bring some of those concepts together because of the languaging I use a lot, you know, because I totally, I couldn't agree more, you know, everything that you're saying so far. And it's that groove, that's the big deal. That's where your magic's done, right?
Yep. You taught me that, to use that terminology, by the way. That word.
Oh, did I? Okay.
I got that from you.
Okay.
And it just made sense. So I used to say pathway, right? Like a set neurological pathway. Neuro, you know, brain, and logical, right? It's like the thinking, it's the logical method, using it to transmit information. And that's, you know, we're informational beings, you know. When I push, you know, get it like a massage, and from like my sports massage therapist, he works on this side, that actually sends information over to this side. And he taught me that when something's done on one side of the body, the other side takes on 20% of that. And so it's important to go back and on this side and balance it out.
Good.
Even our bodies are always trying to get a balance, an equilibrium, right? It's like everything's connected, you know, right. And there's, you know, there's nothing that I can do to my body that isn't connected to the other parts that make up me. But that's another topic for another time, I think.
Right, right.
Yes.
So in this time now that we're finding ourselves in, without naming anything out loud, it's chaotic. And I have a philosophy that, you know, we're in a system that's ready to jump to a new level of order. And there's many different ways of looking at that, but the chaos of the current time in that, it's almost like a birthing canal. I swear, it's just like, rah! And so we have our own personal stuff, and then we've got this collective craziness that's happening. And how do we navigate that and actually create some semblance of an upward motion that we can feel, some, maybe, I don't know if control's the word, or equilibrium, at least that balance? Can we go there a little?
So the first thing that comes to my mind when you bring up this really important question is that although any transformation, you can't hear me?
A little louder.
Okay. Any transformation is going to be scary, because we don't know what's on the other side of that transformation. We don't know. And humans are famous for, rightfully so, trying to gather information to know what's happening and how things are going to turn out. And that can get us into trouble, actually, and confuse us more, because one thing that I do believe is that the answers we're looking for are not always in the place that we're looking, number one. And number two is the problem that we're presented is rarely ever the actual problem. there's typically something in a lower, what one would call like a dimension of self, or just in a lower place that maybe even if we use our bodies, it's kind of like that, like it goes from, the mind where we can pretty much create our own problems,
Mm-hmm.
to our heart, which we can experience heartbreak or love. And then there's the gut, where deep down we can feel almost sick to our stomach with some stuff when we're realizing like how afraid I've been for so long, right? It's like, ooh, there's the acceptance of lost time, of
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, like I just realized something, ding, right? And in that moment, we have a choice too, to stay what I call asleep about the issue, or experience those uncomfortable feelings, practice acceptance that we don't know. I don't know, really. I mean, Socrates and I agree on this, that really I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I learn, the more I realize that's really true. And I don't say that from a point of, um, gloat, or like wanting to, boast my humility. It's actually, I've had this I've really come into this understanding of how little we actually know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but we have choices. Um, so that gets into what do I choose to do with my time? You know, it was Gandalf who said, all we have to do is to decide what to do with the time that we're given,
Mm-hmm.
or that's given to us. And pretty sure I butchered that, but what, Gandalf was awesome. But that was J.R.R. Tolkien, actually, who wrote A Beautiful Mind, a thinker, someone who was willing to ask those questions that led to all these amazing writings and books, and a story that is just so marvelous. And I still need to watch the movie. Tolkien. But really, the question comes down to what really, like, doesn't matter. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a beauty in not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a beauty in the chaos. And there's something beautiful about landing a plane after a week, a month, 10 years, 30 years of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Because the chaos can happen up here
Mm-hmm.
all the time, or not. We can get some reprieve in different ways. But I want to talk about mindset. And I wrote a couple things down. And so I'm like looking over here. I wrote them down this morning when I was sitting in the sun. It was so amazing. It's like I waited for the inspiration to come. It's like, um, why would I force myself into a situation that is inorganic or
Mm-hmm.
not authentically? That's like a betrayal of self,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we do
Yes.
that, when we put ourselves in situations or force things to be, we're not acting within our own, what some would call like a greatest good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or it's not even good, actually. It's not even the greatest good. It's just not good. It
Mm-hmm.
makes us uncomfortable.
Right.
And we can change that. And that's the hope I have to share with my clients, with your viewers, with the people that I engage with, is that we ourselves can be the change. Um, it just so happens, like from my standpoint, I tend to like accelerate that along a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the underlying method is I need to be able to understand what's going on if I'm going to be loving someone
Mm-hmm.
and being patient and kind and not taking things personally. I need to know, not for them to tell me the whole story, but to really take myself out of the equation, which ironically makes me more connected.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
So are you saying like to seek to understand where they're coming from to first? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm speaking in a tangential way that is bringing up multiple points that in the end I'll bring it all together.
Okay.
Yeah. So what does mindset actually mean? What is a mind and what is a setting? So for set, I thought like, we tell someone to like set something down, set it down, take a load off, right? Like go ahead and set that down right here. It looks heavy, right? And then for a mind, what came to mind was like minding your own business. That sounds like a provocative way to tell someone to butt out, but really, it's actually really useful. If we mind our own business, we get to define what our business is. And you have a business, and you have to mind it. And so you have to determine a mindset that is geared toward whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're aiming at something, which implies focus. In order to aim at something, you have to focus on it. And this would indicate that when we change our focus, then we can change our mind. And we can set or settle into that. And when we settle into where we're going, the chaos around us, it melts away. Because it doesn't really matter,
Mm-hmm.
literally. There's no matter, right? With the chaos that happens up here, the worries, the fears, the regrets, the grudges, whatever it is, on whatever level of our body it's happening, or whatever amount of space in this universe it's happening in, we get to decide. And I think for me, setting something down means letting it be still.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if we're willing to really look at like our what it is that we feel, we'll realize we might be criticizing ourselves a lot. And what I mean by this is, let's say like a little thought experiment is like, do you remember how you felt initially when I said, go ahead and set it down or set something down? Are you able to kind of frame up the feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you express it?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I don't have to actively continue to think about it. I can.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly enough, I wrote about this a little bit. A lot of what I do has to do with permission. And in this time that we're in, there are a lot of people with a lot of ideas. And let's call it for what it is. It's a lot of people with a lot of ideas.
Right.
And there's a lot floating around, a lot of vocabulary right now. Like these two words I wrote down, someone brought up this, asked me if I was talking about the Mandelbrot, which is this amazing set of functions that create this incredible design that is fractal. And they were like, oh, is that like sacred geometry? And one of those words that like, oh, this is something that can belong in this box. But what's amazing is everything is sacred geometry. Every single part of our being. I mean, just look at this thing. Like, look at our bodies. Like, it's incredible. Like, that's a mindset of awe, of wonder. And it does take work to get to that space, but it's in striving. It's the aim. It's minding one's business, kind of knowing where they kind of want to go, and then being open to the guidance from others, which is around us all the time. Guidance from we can even get guidance from the wind or trees or, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm having a little moment. So I'm getting this idea of mindset, the way you're saying, is I get to set the level of, in a way, even openness. Like I'm not even going to agree to have to control the outcomes or the whatever. Like I don't have to get things to fit in this box or that box, because my mindset is just everything is amazing, right? Like you could actually set your mind to be not conditional to all these other beliefs and things. Is it?
Yeah, but it's work.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
We have to admit first,
totally,
we have a mindset that isn't really what we want.
Right.
Without that judgment, without that criticism.
Bingo.
Because that's the only way that we grow. And sometimes we get so ingrained that we need to tell somebody kind of what's going on, and that they get to see our vision for us a little bit and share in that and help us get there. And really what it comes down to in the end, like spoiler alert, like the end goal of all of the work that I do is helping people to love themselves again. And some people have more to sift through. And it's all a gift. And I find that people with the most chaotic minds, or most neuroticism, or most anger, or most rage, or whatever it is, sadness, depression, anxiety, they have the most to gain on the other side. And it's not about me, but it is a gift to watch, because who knows the ripples that'll have that one person. Once they know how to love, then they know how to transmit it, because we can't transmit something that we don't got. And if I don't have unconditional love, I can't give it away. It's impossible. It's a law. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking, I've been a personal growth junkie all my life, because I grew up on a therapy couch. I was probably supposed to be on a playing field, but I had a lot of stuff. So I went to therapy, I went to this and that, and I learned a lot. I learned how to ask a lot of questions of myself and others, which is really fascinating. My question is, because that became really rewarding for me, and I really enjoyed the growth and the challenge, and I recognized that struggle was a choice to not accept whatever I was believing about a situation. And so I really learned to see good and bad as really just two sides of the same coin, and not judge it so much. And, a lot of these little steps on the way to equilibrium were really exciting for me. But for a lot of people, like, what do you find is the point? Like, you were working with people really that were at the bottom, like I was saying in the beginning, like, and we're finding a lot of people right now, like, what do I even have to look up to right now? Like, why should I even go this journey right now when everything seems so crazy? Because you've helped people there, to really change things. It doesn't have to be as long and hard of a journey as a whole life, right?
I'm really stoked on this question, and it brings me into one thing, and that's that um, we talked about like in future endeavors possibly involving participants
Mm-hmm.
in a gentle and safe way, um, because a lot of the work that I do is practical, and it mixes theory with action, right?
Right.
And relatability. So in the future, I think I'll be able to much better explain your question um, through something real,
Mm-hmm.
because like theory is good and cool to talk about, like, what, how can we explain the process? But in the end, what I do is what's happening right now,
Mm-hmm.
and not like, oh, is this place up here to like look at, which above is amazing and beautiful and sweet, but all of this is created,
Mm-hmm.
not just me, being created. That tree was created too. And I bring up the trees and the grass like earlier, and the wind, that they can teach us lessons, because there's this really interesting psychological um, concept of mirror neurons,
Mm-hmm.
where basically we will mimic, and I wrote down a little bit here, mimic and relate to others by observing them, while simultaneously simulating that reality within our own bodies or brains, which is part of our bodies. It's not like the brain is this, you know, such a magical thing on its own. It's part of the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just as critical as my fingernails. Um, there's no hierarchy within my body, you know, and this idea of mirror neurons means like I'm taking cues from you, and some people are more skilled at this than others, and I can um, I can choose how I want to become. Once I'm aware of it, I can be a chameleon and do like what I think you want me to say, and say what I feel like will be best received, which is being a reactionary. Or I can be aware of that and then speak my own truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finding that the answer to your question, actually, it's found in the work,
Mm-hmm.
and I could explain it, but what's so much more rewarding for people isn't this other nugget of information being thrown their way,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, you know um, I I've heard it thrown around recently that um, we're in a that everything's a hologram, or that this is all an illusion. I've never heard someone say that with a happy heart, or not like get this tension. I say, like, what if this is all real? What if this really does count?
Mm-hmm.
And what if, I when when I just don't see a lot of fullness in that term, hologram or illusion, because that implies that a couple different things. It implies I'm not really here, that I'm not really real, and that I don't really matter.
Mm. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
And then it kind of, like, the question, it almost becomes the backdoor denialism,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, does it really matter how I treat others? And then it's like, why? And then people usually in this realm of having this conversation do treat people really well, but then they have to start to ask themselves of why they're doing it. And if this is all a hologram, why would you treat anyone kindly? you know it's just another way of framing the old question of, is God real or not? It's like, Why would any of this matter? Why would we behave in a certain way? Why would we follow universal laws? If, this is all just nothing. And that's why I say, what if this is all actually real? What if it counts?
Mhm.
What if we are infinite beings, part of a greater whole?
That feels much better to me, and it feels to me that the discord, the separation, is just that. It's a separation. It's a forgetting of our oneness. It's our forgetting of so my philosophy around all that is that we're all one, and with our free will we get to choose and expand the whole with our experience. And it's almost like we stretch ourselves out far enough to forget that we're part of the whole pool of people. And we look over and we see the other person who's stretched all the way out, and we go, oh, you're separate from me. And then we have to identify different things to make us feel a little bit more important or something. And the whole identity thing comes in, the whole ego thing comes in, and then we have to protect that. And then we've got the beliefs and all. And really, in a way, this is like a whole big journey home. It's a whole big journey back to wholeness, right? And then that creativity can come from a space of wholeness, but it's not necessarily a linear process. I think for everyone, what you're saying is it could be spontaneous, right? Like it could be just a recognizing that it doesn't have to be mindset at all. It could just be mind and presence that can transmute the whole thing and bring you back to whole. I don't know. I'm getting all philosophical on you. Did that spark any thoughts?
Yeah, it sparked like feelings actually. I was just experiencing what you were saying. Like, and that's like an example of focus, removing the ego would be step number one somehow, right? While loving the ego too and realizing it was a necessary part to get me here, to be able to sit here and listen to you and really, instead of thinking, the common thing is like thinking about the next thing you're going to say or the response. But that happens on a subconscious level, or other than conscious is kind of how I like to put it. So I was just enjoying what you were saying, and it did, like I was able to connect with you. I wasn't like this other being, right, separate from you. But that's the recognition of equality, that the cells that make up my body are part of this earth. I came from the earth, literally, quite literally, if you break down all of my atomic structure. I am, in this way, without getting too deep into it, just so connected to you. And it matters what happens to you, because you are a part of me, because we are a part of the same thing. We both come from the same thing. And that builds bridges, right? Like between animals and humans, plants and humans, humans to humans, different races. That's an interesting mindset, right? And none of us are perfect. We all have to deal with, the different voices in our mind that cause those grooves. And when I say voices in our mind, I mean, I've worked with people with, a lot of my work was done with people with so much trauma that they developed schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. And typically with those, there's a lot of trauma. Interestingly enough, throughout my work, I found, and something I'd say to my clients pretty early on is, we all have voices, just some people have them louder than others. And there is biology and genetic predisposition to different quote unquote like mental health disorders, but that's connection, right? It's like here's this thing that they are told, like someone with schizoaffective disorder, right, that they're so different or that they need help. That's like the stigma. There's so little safety in even speaking about the initial onset that they'll often not even talk about what's happening for a few years. And by then, there's so much guilt and shame, and unduly so.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they feel like, not to put words in their mouths, but oftentimes it's like sad, sadness, which is honestly loneliness, where a lot of our disordered mental health disorders and a lot of our emotions that are painful come from is a lack of connection. It's loneliness. And so the secret to you and me over the last few months for you to think that we have a connection is just that. It's that you and I were willing to, instead of remaining on my island, we were able to meet somewhere in the middle. Take our canoes and meet each other somehow. And some days, we have to meet our friends all the way on their island or all the way over here. But you know what?
Yeah.
I think the willingness to connect, that vulnerability, right? That, and then stepping into that and then realizing, oh, this person actually is not going to shame me or guilt me or blame me or go away, which is fairly difficult to find people who are capable of that, unfortunately, to help us move on to that next stage of freedom. Regardless, when we set the intention, when we set the focus, it'll come.
Yeah. Looking for the gold in someone else, looking in their eyes and recognizing that it's a mirror, and there's a child in there. There's a person who's lived a life and made agreements about themselves, who has the same voice as you have. I have terrible voices. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. Just, and I can weave back where they all came from and all that. And I just finally had to say, that's just part of me. It's part of the noise. Yeah. But when I could look into someone else and make the problem not about me anymore and that incessant voice, and see instead them as a child, like that gift to give someone else was so, it melts away your own stuff. It's amazing. And getting out of my own way and just throwing it out there anyway, and just like, okay, I just won't watch it. I'm just going to post it, It's not about me. Has been so rewarding in quieting the voice, And I think that if we could all just look at each other as brothers and sisters, not to talk about the whole, situations right now around all these separations of groups. I mean, we're all one, and we're a big melting pot here. So that's another thought. Anyway, I don't want to go off tangent, but just to really see that we are looking into our own eyes. I saved a little hawk the other day, and I looked into his eyes, and I was like, I saw oneness in those eyes. He was part of everything, just like I'm part of everything. And I couldn't wait to have him be rehabilitated and come back and just show me a little glimpse of, I don't know, myself, the wildness, I don't know. But like, if we could just have that, we could quiet that inner judgment and critic that creates, I think, that loneliness and that separation that you're talking about. I don't know. Really cool thoughts. I'm going to be thinking a lot. It's good stuff. Really good stuff.
It really comes down to, may I?
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
I did have a thought. I was feeling it, felt great.
Uh-huh.
Felt the connection, felt the oneness with you. And that's not some woo-woo like BS, whatever. Like this is so like I could come on here and I could have my agenda.
Mhm.
And man, I see that way too often. I can't watch most podcasts and stuff or like videos of interviews about people with ideas because they're still mowing it over in their own heads, or they haven't worked through their stuff to allow them to um, be able to speak their truth despite the personal cost.
Mhm.
Yeah. And um, that usually goes all the way back to our upbringing, our family.
Mhm.
How strict was it? How much were you not allowed to say? How much were you not allowed to feel? You know, how much were you not allowed to bring out into the open, right? And that's like the family secrets. Um, and those secrets turn into we have to come. You talk about beliefs a lot. A belief um, is really it's like a voice of its own.
Mhm.
And I bring up people that I've worked with these disorders where they hear voices louder. That's actually sometimes easier to work with because for me personally, not to generalize, because at least they they're in a spot where they're aware of it, and that's
Mm.
a blessing and a curse. It's a curse if they've been shamed all their lives and feel completely disconnected. But if it is brought out as the gift that it is from the get-go, these people are accepted for who they are. Oh my gosh, the gift that they have can be, which is part of them, um, can rest in them a little softer over time, and it can be beautiful. Anything in existence can be framed as beautiful, and not like we trick ourselves into thinking it. No, truly, like it's our own beliefs, our own voices that disconnect us, but it starts from disconnecting us from ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because any relationship that I have with anything or anyone is a direct reflection of the relationship that I have with myself.
Ding, 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 ding. Totally. Amen. Amen.
Sometimes people are indoctrinated that they're not lovable to the degree that they don't love themselves anymore.
Mhm.
And so they need somebody to see their worth and point it out and encourage them, like that really, really amazing, that one coach that most kids had, like growing up. I had one amazing baseball coach, this African American man who was in the military, and he took his time and he helped us taught us how to do push-ups and like got us going and would motivate us. Man, I love that guy. I love that guy because I had a lot of horrible baseball coaches who were in it for themselves and caught up in their ego. And how was little boy thinking about this? Well, I don't know. This is just how my self works.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing, you know? Do you see? Like, perfect example. I had a
Mhm.
choice. I'm going to use myself as an example.
Mhm.
I could have degraded myself. But the fact that I was able to do that as a child and see patterns and adults and how people are behind that veil, whether they could see it or not. Um, that's what some people would call a gift. I just say it just is. And we
Yeah.
all have these little things about ourselves that, oh my gosh, how amazing would that be if we had the safety, psychological safety,
Mm.
like a warm blanket, right? Type of friend who or even family member who can actually hear it without an agenda,
Mhm.
to feel that oneness, to look in their eyes and just hear and not have to quantify or explain or like the shell, right? Like I have a choice. Like I could look at this, be like, oh my gosh, I killed that animal for my own selfish needs to eat. Or, I can expand the gift that was this amazing creature, and like I'm later gonna treat these and make them stand out in a different way. They're already beautiful. You got like this ocean speck all over it, and it's sun. The sun's bleached a little. It's already beautiful, just like us.
Mm-hmm.
And then inside is this shiny, nice, beautiful abalone color, and that's going to be shinier. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be more beautiful. It's already beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I look at it and I can, if I focus on it really truly and see the oneness, right, then and connect with it, then that's a good indication that I'm connecting with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have accepted myself for whatever I got, including my gifts or my shortcomings. Right. It's all interesting to look at, and it doesn't have to be good or bad.
Right.
And it does hurt, but it's what's on the other side of those answering those questions and living into it instead of neurologically like thinking about or like seeking answers. I mean, no one's going to really give us the answers we're looking for.
Right.
Those answers will be discovered within. And that doesn't mean other people aren't part of us or part of our story or help us get there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's up to us.
I'm feeling, so we're coming, I think, I don't know, I'm not timing us right now, but it's feeling like we're coming out towards a close. But what I want to share that I'm really getting from this, two words are just really standing out to me. And one is presence and the other is perspective. Because even with your shells, it's how do I choose to see this here in this now presence, not from the perspective of me as a child or with this person who I feel hurt me or separated from me or what I see happening in the world, guessing what direction all that's going to go. I feel like we have such like our perspective of what reality is today in this time space that we're living in is hard to look beyond 2 weeks. Things are changing so fast. And so to be present to what you're feeling and to choose a perspective that keeps you at least in the sense of somewhat equilibrium or getting help, guidance, ideas to find that's what I would like to consider in terms of whether people want to connect with you or that we do another kind of a call to help people to find this equilibrium maybe, or we can discuss how that might look. But those are the two things that really have come out of this in this time right now. Do you have last thoughts or ideas?
I have something to read, and then I want to comment on something you said. Yeah?
Please.
Okay, so I just jotted this down. And I write the word you in all this, but this applies to me just as much because it came from me. So it could just as easily be me or we, but today it's you. Others rule you by making you think there is a right way. There is a way. And the way is right now. It's all the time. It's the whole world. Not what people say it is. And the world not what people are saying, is asking you if your time is here to become. Become what? Well, don't forget outside of you. Seek the what inside, because you already know. This implies a couple different things. One, we aren't deficient. We've already got the answers. Two, we give our power away to people who really don't know what they're talking about. That doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. That means the answers are within us. And empowering other people simply by listening to them, treating them kindly, which sounds counterintuitive. It's like, no, give them a shield, a sword, make them really strong. It's like, we can actually empower people by just being with them and seeing that they can become. But to get to that point, we need to be able to understand them, what it's like to be in the state they're in. So it's important to do our work and help one another. And that's why I'm here. To help others so that they can help others, so that they can help others. So as far as my comment as to, something you said, perspective is great. And my only comment is that we all have a perspective on everything. But perspectives can change. And it's up to ourselves when we have a perspective that gets called into question to or pointed out a different side. It could just be a 1 degree, it could be a 180 of a story we're telling ourselves or a way we are viewing something. It's up to us to integrate that and assimilate that, and not view ourselves as deficient, as if that first perspective was bad. In fact, it's that one perspective that got you to this new one, and a willingness to change that will bring us, that acceptance of self. Oh man, like it's totally all beautiful and connected, and why not?
Right.
Like, why should we be dormant in our joy? Why? Who says? Who gives us permission? And I'd like to end on this. If anyone's made it to this point with us, I'd like to give you permission to give yourself permission to stop needing permission from others.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Are you complete?
So complete.
That was so good. Unapologetic. It's a new label for me. Even stepping into the words sweet spot power. The word power wigged me out when I first chose that for my brand. And there's this leaning in, this self-acceptance, and this, to feel now unapologetic. Oh my God. Like I've been apologizing for myself all my life, right? So beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Harrison. Really, really wonderful. I'm excited to do some more work with you. And check out the description of this video down below to connect with Harrison and to find out about other things that are happening. Of course, you can find me on Facebook and other places, so you can see what else is up and coming. I think this would be really, really fun to do a live session with some brave souls like ourselves here who are willing to kind of put it out there. And, and maybe we do it as a, just a cameraless type of thing to give people some anonymity. But but there's a boldness in really owning who we are right now. And this is the time. There's something about this time and right now that it's time to become unapologetic and to really step into this new mindset, if it's even a set at all, this new way of being. We need you. We need you to do that. So Harrison, thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you.
Thank you. And yes, if you made it this far, yeah, we'll be seeing you on the next one. Bye, y'all.